G'day and welcome. This is Warwick Johnston from SunWiz. We've got latest instalment of our Vodcast, starting off 2009 with a bang. We're going to be having a look at some data for how 2018 rounded up. Worth noting that 2019 is already going gangbusters. So I've got here with me also today Guy Olian from Energy Ease, and he's going to be sharing some fascinating insights into the commercial market, and particularly from the finance perspective. So looking forward to that, Guy. Let's jump into sharing some very interesting data from the year just gone. Up on your screen now, you can see the volume of PV commissioned in every year since 2008, and it's pretty obvious that 2018 was a record year. When you look at this data, it's not only a record year, it's a record in practically every state and practically every segment, and we'll go through that in a bit more detail. You've got solar farms, of course, contributing significantly to that tally, but there's also a range of commercial and industrial solar systems on rooftops, as well as your small-scale solar. It was just going nuts everywhere, and really thrilling to see. Let's go across to our next slide as well. Okay, so what was exciting here was a real volume increase, not just in solar farms here, but you saw this in the 100 to 500 kilowatt range. We're talking about 47% growth. There was 37% growth in the 500 to 1,000 kilowatt range, and just opportunities abounding everywhere. Obviously, you have to be a very sophisticated company or have a very sophisticated software tool to tackle this market well, but it abounds with opportunity. Some really interesting trends that played out there, which we'll cover off in future podcasts as well, but we're really seeing the rollout of corporate multi-site and some interesting trends as a result. One of the things which we took away from the market was that the residential segment, obviously this is in the blue bar here, it grew substantially from 2017, but if you look back across, it wasn't actually that much greater than where we got to in 2012. So were it not for this extra 500 odd megawatt worth of small commercial capacity, we would have been sitting back with a similar sort of story back to 2012. So the question, the obvious implication here is, if you're not in commercial, then you're missing out really on a major opportunity, notwithstanding that residential still is going gangbusters. And it's for that reason, actually, with PV Cells now focusing on residential sales with a really simple process that is primarily focused on roof layout and not much financial inputs at all. Let's look at the states. As said, across every state, we had a record volume, other than Tasmania, sorry, got left out again. But that was really, really exciting to see that this wasn't just a boom that happened because of one state going nuts. This was everywhere going gangbusters. And if we look at the growth rates here, growth rates on the vertical axis and the total capacity on the horizontal axis, you can see that South Australia, Victoria, and New South Wales all grew by over 60% year on year, and it was the other states were 30%, etc. So look, a really exciting year, and already it started off in similar fashion. Victoria in January set a new record volume, when usually it's a bit of a quieter month for STC registration. So just going nuts. And now to talk about how to take advantage of that market. We're here speaking with Guy. G'day, Guy.
Hi, how are you?
Look, for those people that don't know too much about you, give us a little bit of a background of how long you've been in the industry for, and what sort of role you place, and make sure you have a smile at the camera too, mate.
So thank you, and great data that you just shared as well. Always insightful. So look, Energy Ease is a specialty payment plan provider for the solar and energy efficient equipment space. We actually only work with providing payment plans to commercial clients, so those that have ABNs. We've been doing it now for about 5+ years. I've been in this sort of intersection of finance and environmental markets for over a decade, having sort of spent time in the carbon trading world and now in the payment plan world. Got an office or a business rather, that's fully online. and that's really helped the industry sort of offer these whole $0 down and often cash positive solutions. And we'll talk about that in a bit more detail in terms of the trends we're seeing. But as the industry has grown, so have we, and it's been a fascinating and really rewarding industry to be part of, as in essence helping people access these energy efficient technologies to help make their businesses more productive and more efficient without having to really spend a cent on it, which has been a really exciting business to be part of.
Yeah, great to hear, Guy. And look, I mean, we saw some really exciting figures there. Trends in commercial, obviously it's going gangbusters. What trends are you seeing both in commercial segment, but particularly your insights into commercial finance?
Yeah, so, somewhat they're all intertwined, both the commercial finance element and the commercial solar market. So happy to sort of try and give a bit of insight into both. So, as your graphs, very clearly articulated, the size of systems and the market grew fairly substantially in 2018. We saw that as well in terms of the deals we were funding. So our average solar system was around 40 kilowatts, and we went all the way up to sort of funding 4 megawatt projects for a very large corporate client. Number two, which was interesting, was that a lot of those deals, particularly the larger deals, the LGC size deals, were deals that were agreed to by clients in either 2017 or even earlier, if it was larger deals, or early 2018. And what we saw towards the end of 2018 was that as this flood of very large solar systems came into the market, the LGC prices really fell away very, very rapidly. And on top of that, you had energy prices start to soften up from a historically very, very high level. And so what that started to do is really blow out the returns on investment. And we started to see a lot of transactions, and this is where it moves into the financing side of things, a lot of transactions where people were contemplating spending their own money because the returns were there, suddenly starting to either not proceed or delay proceeding, or use financing agreements like what we do. So effectively moving to de-risk the jobs by not using their own capital, and a lot of interest in things like PPAs and performance guarantees, where the risk around things like LGCs or generation starts to be reduced, and clients really looking for solar as a service, whereby the solar installers and the solar retailers can give their clients a fixed cents per kilowatt hour outcome for a portion of their bill. And what we were seeing is that is more and more becoming where particularly large corporate is looking to agree to solar installations, because they just want to put a line in the sand around their exposure to rising grid prices or fluctuating grid prices, and have some certainty about their price of electricity, or, as I said, at least a portion of it that's being generated by the sun.
Yeah, look, I see that too, Guy. I'm doing a review of a large corporate rollout, and they're asking respondents for finance, cash prices, and PPAs and performance guarantees and everything. So it's definitely where the market is heading. I'm curious to know what you think is what makes the difference between these different financial products, but also particularly the financial providers.
So look, it's a very interesting time in the world of finance, particularly this week with the Royal Commission coming out. Mm-hmm. They have really hammered the consumer space much harder than commercial. But by and large, the big four banks are really tied up with a lot of compliance obligations at the moment. That has rolled out into their credit teams across both commercial and consumer finance. And the biggest constraint at the moment, and the biggest opposition we have, which is a good thing, is the big banks are really struggling to understand solar as a technology and to approve credit. So by and large, we're seeing a tightening of credit. And, you talk about the differences between providers, and really, I guess what we pride ourselves on is just our ability to execute and our ability to get jobs done. and approved, and we're winning jobs from ASX listed companies where we are just able to approve very large transactions in things like 72 hours, where the big banks are taking, months of additional information requests. And from the point of view of the sales companies or the retailers, that time is just really costing them money, right? So it's, the inability to tie up loose ends when they're getting to the point of decision making with these large corporates is really costing them, lost opportunities and lost business. And the other thing that we're finding we're very different on is our ability to offer things like progress payments to help with these large installations, to help with the solar companies' working capital, because we know that most of the companies doing these smaller LGCs projects, and that means sort of under a megawatt, are smaller companies, and access to working capital for them and the ability to actually cash flow these projects during the construction phase is a major issue. And so the combination of being able to both approve the client, the person who the solar installation is going on to, as well as help with solutions for the working capital during the construction phase has really meant that, we grew very substantially last year as well.
Oh, great to hear. Great to hear. And it sounds like from what we were talking about before, you got plans this year to bring down that approval time like massively.
Yeah, so we've invested in some really exciting technology on our online platform. So literally starting next week, we're going to be able to change our approval from 4 hours to 2 minutes, whereby the minute someone signs our documents, we can instantly approve it. Where it's a very small LSTC system, you could pretty much install it the next day, which is really exciting. And we're also expanding. So we've got an office opening up in WA in South Australia to support our partners over there. And we've also recently expanded into New Zealand. So really exciting times for us. But probably a good opportunity to ask, what's the latest and greatest with PV Cell?
Thanks for asking, Guy. Look, hearing all of this, I'm really excited that PV Cell already has Energy Ease payment finance integrated into it. So just with a single click, people can see what the prices that can be offered to their clients, and even apply for the finance there within the software. Makes it pretty simple. So look, glad to be involved with you, and of course we'll be exhibiting at some trade shows together this year. So excited about that as well.
Absolutely.
Other couple of things that I'm highly excited about. Firstly, PV Cell is moving more and more towards a residential tool. So we've got a really simple roof layout option, and if that's all you need with some simple charts and a Word document at the end of it, that's there for you. And not only that, it comes with free high-res aerial imagery. So that can just drastically reduce costs and improve outcomes there by accessing some of the best aerial imagery available. And the other thing that we're really excited about, well, there's a few things there, but we'll have to keep them secret. But I'd also say the year in review is going gangbusters. We have that report. You saw a little excerpt from that, and that's available for $2,500. People are really, really excited about this market and knowing where they stand and how they can take advantage of it. So that's the start of this year. I'm getting married in a couple of weeks, so it's busy for me on both ends. But big exciting year. Hey, look, Guy, thanks so much for taking some time to share with us your insights. I hope you have a magnificent year yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think there's everything to be excited for about 2019 in the clean tech space. You've got an amazing platform, and you keep investing in your technology, as do we. And really exciting times to be in the industry and support the growth of what is effectively helping people become energy independent. So really excited to be supporting that.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Guy. And everyone, have a fantastic 2019. Cheers.